I opened the door unexpectedly, and caught two alien girls in a secret act. The maintenance hatch groaned as Marcus pushed it open, his toolbox clanging against the metal frame. Station Alpha 7's observation deck was supposed to be sealed for repairs. That's what the duty roster had said. He'd been sent to check the atmospheric regulators after some anomalous readings, expecting to find nothing but darkness and the infinite stars beyond the reinforced viewing panels. Instead, he froze. Two figures stood pressed together near the largest viewport, silhouetted against the cosmic backdrop. The taller one had her arms wrapped around the other, their foreheads touching in what was unmistakably an intimate embrace. But it wasn't their closeness that made Marcus's breath catch, it was their skin, which seemed to glow with a soft purple luminescence in the dim emergency lighting. The shorter one noticed him first. She pulled away with a gasp, her lavender eyes going wide. "Someone's here." Marcus dropped his toolbox with a crash that echoed through the cavernous space. I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was. This area is supposed to be restricted." The taller woman stepped forward, her expression shifting from alarm to something like resignation. Her skin was a deeper shade of violet, almost plum-colored, and her silver hair fell in waves past her shoulders. Despite his embarrassment, Marcus couldn't help noticing how strikingly beautiful she was, in a way that was simultaneously familiar and utterly foreign. "Please don't report us," she said, her accent melodic but tinged with worry. "We're not supposed to be here." "I gathered that," Marcus managed, trying to keep his eyes respectfully on her face. Both women wore standard station jumpsuits, but somehow they looked different on their alien frames. "Look, I'm just here to fix the environmental controls. I can pretend I never saw you, but you need to tell me, are you part of the Valorian delegation?" The shorter one stepped forward, her pale purple features softening. "I'm Linus, and this is Zephyra. Yes, we're with the Cultural Exchange Program. We've been studying at the station for 3 months. In the restricted areas." Marcus raised an eyebrow, finally recovering some composure. Zephyra's expression turned almost pleading. "The observation deck has the best view of the Andromeda corridor. Where we're from, on Valoria, we have open skies and 3 moons. The assigned quarters feel so enclosed. We just needed somewhere we could breathe." Marcus understood that feeling more than they knew. He'd grown up on Earth's overcrowded eastern seaboard before joining the Space Corps. The vastness of space had called to him precisely because it offered the freedom their home planet couldn't. "And the other thing I walked in on?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light despite his burning cheeks. Linus laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "You humans and your discomfort with affection. On Valoria, physical closeness between friends is natural. We were just comforting each other. Homesickness is difficult." "Right," Marcus said, though something in Zephyra's expression suggested there might be more to the story. "Well, I still need to check those regulators. But maybe we can work something out. I have access to this deck for maintenance. If you two promise to be careful and not touch anything sensitive, I could forget to lock the hatch when I leave." Zephyra's face transformed with a smile that made Marcus's heart skip unexpectedly. "You would do that for us?" "Let's just say I know what it's like to need an escape," he said, picking up his toolbox. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Chen." "Thank you, Marcus Chen," Zephyra said softly, and something in the way she said his name made him think this chance encounter might change more than just their evening plans. Marcus found himself returning to the observation deck far more often than maintenance schedules required. At first, he told himself it was professional responsibility, making sure the Valorian women weren't damaging any equipment. But after the 3rd coincidental visit in as many days, even he couldn't maintain that fiction. Zephyra was always there, though Linus came and went. The deeper violet woman had a quiet intensity that drew him in, her curiosity about human culture both endearing and infectious. "On Valoria, we have a saying," Zephyra said one evening as they sat together watching a supply ship dock in the distance. "To know another's sky is to know their soul." "Tell me about Earth's sky, Marcus." He smiled, leaning back against the observation panel. "Depends where you are. I grew up in New Boston. You could barely see stars through the light pollution and atmospheric shields. But my grandmother had a cabin in the old Appalachian Reserve. That's where I first fell in love with space. The Milky Way looked like someone had spilled diamonds across black velvet. Zephyra moved closer, her shoulder nearly touching his. That's beautiful. We have similar poetry about our triple moons. Their light makes our skin shimmer differently, deeper purples under Thessia, lighter lavenders under Morn, and almost silver under Kale. I've noticed your skin does seem to shift shades depending on the lighting, Marcus said, then immediately worried he'd been too personal. Sorry, is that rude to mention? Not at all. She laughed, and the sound warmed something in his chest. Humans are so careful about acknowledging physical differences. On Valoria, we celebrate them. Here, she held out her arm next to his. Your skin is like sand at sunset, warm and golden. Mine is like twilight flowers. Both beautiful, just different. Their eyes met, and Marcus felt electricity arc between them. He'd dated before, had relationships, but nothing had ever felt quite like this sense of standing on the edge of something vast and unexplored. Linus chose that moment to arrive, breaking the tension. Am I interrupting? She asked with a knowing smile. No, they said in unison, pulling apart too quickly. Over the following weeks, an easy friendship developed between the three of them. Linus proved to be wickedly funny, often teasing Zephyra about her growing attachment to their human friend. Marcus learned about Valorian music, their complex family structures, and their philosophy of emotional openness. We don't hide feelings, Zephyra explained one night. If we're angry, sad, or... She paused meaningfully, attracted to someone, we simply express it. Your human concept of playing it cool seems exhausting. It definitely can be, Marcus admitted, very aware that they were alone tonight. Linus had stayed behind to attend a mandatory cultural seminar. Zephyra turned to face him fully. Then I'll be direct, in the Valorian way. I think about you constantly, Marcus. When I'm in my quarters, when I'm studying human literature, when I'm supposed to be focusing on anything else. Your smile makes my heart race. Is this what humans call attraction? Marcus's mouth went dry. Yes. That's exactly what it is. And do you feel it too? He could have deflected, made a joke, protected himself. Instead, he chose honesty. Every single time I see you. Zephyra's luminous eyes softened. On Valoria, we have a courtship ritual. We share breath. She leaned closer, her face inches from his. It's considered deeply intimate, a mingling of essences. May I share breath with you? Yes, Marcus whispered. She closed the remaining distance until their lips were almost touching, then breathed out softly as he breathed in. The sensation was intoxicating, her breath sweet and cool, carrying something floral he couldn't name. Then he exhaled as she inhaled, and he felt dizzy with the intimacy of it. They stayed like that for several heartbeats, sharing breath, sharing space, sharing possibility. When they finally pulled back, both were trembling. On Earth, Marcus said quietly, we'd probably kiss next. Zephyra smiled. I've researched this custom extensively. Extensively. I wanted to be prepared. Just in case. Marcus laughed, his nervousness evaporating. Well then, let's not let your research go to waste. The kiss changed everything and nothing. Everything because Marcus couldn't imagine his life without Zephyra in it now. Nothing because they still had to hide what was growing between them. Interspecies relationships weren't technically forbidden. The cultural exchange program even encouraged understanding between humans and Valorians. But the program directors frowned upon romantic complications that might interfere with the educational mission. More problematically, Zephyra's family had arranged a potential bonding match for her back on Valoria, a political alliance between two prominent houses. I haven't agreed to it, Zephyra insisted one evening as they lay side by side on the observation deck, staring up at the stars. But refusing would dishonor both families. On Valoria, individual desire must sometimes bow to collective responsibility. Marcus laced his fingers through hers, marveling at how perfectly they fit despite their differences. What do you want? This, she said simply, squeezing his hand. You. These moments. But wanting and having are different things. Linus had become their unofficial guardian and conspirator. She'd cover for Zephyra during their evening meetings and ran interference when other delegates asked too many questions about a friend's whereabouts. "You're playing with fire," Linus warned them one afternoon in the station's botanical gardens, speaking in rapid Valorian. Marcus had started learning the language using station databases, understanding more than he could speak. The directors are already suspicious. And if word reaches Valoria before Zephyra can explain personally. "I know the risks," Zephyra replied in the same language, then switched to English for Marcus's benefit. "But some things are worth the risk." Their stolen moments became more precious and more dangerous. Marcus would find excuses to be near the Valorian quarters, and Zephyra would slip away whenever possible. They communicated through coded messages hidden in maintenance logs, a system that felt absurdly romantic and terrifying in equal measure. One night, Marcus managed to access the premium observation suite, a luxury space typically reserved for visiting dignitaries. He'd called in favors, traded shifts, and spun an elaborate story about recalibrating the suite's environmental systems. When Zephyra arrived, her expression transformed from curiosity to wonder. The suite featured floor-to-ceiling transparent panels on 3 sides, making it feel like floating in space itself. Soft lighting created an intimate atmosphere, and Marcus had even managed to procure Valorian refreshments from the station's cultural supplies. "Marcus, this is..." Zephyra turned in a slow circle, her purple skin gleaming in the starlight. "This is incredible. I wanted to give you something special," he said. "You've been away from home for months, dealing with homesickness and cultural adjustment, and now this complicated thing between us. You deserved one perfect evening." She crossed to him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You are the perfect thing, Marcus Chen. Not the evening, not the view, you." They came together naturally, their kiss deeper and more urgent than before. Marcus felt her warmth through the thin fabric of her station uniform, felt her pulse racing to match his own. They'd been so careful until now, maintaining boundaries, but tonight something felt different, more honest, more necessary. "I need to tell you something," Zephyra whispered against his lips. "In Valorian culture, when we choose someone, when we truly choose them, we perform what's called the Kalesh, the soul bonding. It's not just physical or emotional. It's a commitment that transcends distance and time." Marcus pulled back slightly to look into her eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that despite every logical reason not to, despite the complications and the distance and the impossibility of it all," she took his face in her hands. "I choose you, Marcus. If you'll have me." "Zephyra, I..." A sudden alarm blared through the station, red emergency lights flooding the observation suite. They sprang apart as Marcus's communicator crackled to life. "All personnel report to stations. Unscheduled inspection by Corps Command. Repeat, Corps Command inspection in progress." Marcus and Zephyra stared at each other in horror. Corps Command only performed surprise inspections when they suspected serious protocol violations. Someone must have reported their unauthorized meetings. "You need to get back to the Valorian quarters," Marcus said urgently. "Now. If they catch you here." "What about you?" "I'll say I was working. It's my job to be here." He cupped her face one more time. "Go. We'll figure this out." She kissed him quickly, desperately, then slipped out the maintenance exit. Marcus watched her purple form disappear into the corridor, his heart hammering with equal parts love and fear. The perfect evening had just become their most dangerous mistake. The inspection lasted 3 grueling days. Corps Command officers swept through every section of Station Alpha 7, reviewing access logs, interviewing personnel, and checking security footage. Marcus maintained his composure during his interrogation, explaining his presence in various restricted areas as routine maintenance, which was technically true, even if his motivations hadn't been purely professional. But the footage was damning. There were gaps, certainly. Marcus had been careful to disable certain cameras during their meetings, but those gaps themselves told a story. Commander Reeves, the inspection lead, was no fool. "Engineer Chen," she said on the 3rd day, her steel-grey eyes boring into him across the interview table. You've been exemplary in your service record. 5 years without a single infraction. So I'm going to ask you directly, are you involved with one of the Valorian delegates? Marcus's throat tightened. A direct lie could end his career. But the truth could end Zephyr's exchange program and destroy any chance of her family accepting their relationship. I've befriended some of the delegates, he said carefully. The cultural exchange program encourages human-Valorian interaction. Befriended, Reeves repeated, her tone skeptical. The observation deck access logs show you've been there 47 times in the past 6 weeks. That's more than the previous 6 months combined. The environmental systems have been temperamental. Cut the technical justifications. Reeves leaned forward. I don't care about romance, Chen. People fall for each other. It happens, even across species lines. What I care about is security protocols and the integrity of this program. If you're involved with a delegate and hiding it, that creates vulnerabilities. Blackmail opportunities. Security risks. Before Marcus could respond, the door chimed. Another officer entered and whispered urgently in Reeves's ear. The commander's expression shifted from stern to surprised, then something almost amused. Send them in, she said. The door opened wider, and Zephyr entered, flanked by Linus. Behind them came Ambassador Turin, the head of the Valorian delegation, an imposing woman whose deep indigo skin spoke of high-ranking lineage. Commander Reeves, Zephyr said, her voice steady despite the tremor Marcus could detect underneath. I'm here to provide testimony regarding Engineer Chen's presence in restricted areas. Marcus's heart plummeted. She was going to take the fall for him. He was there at my request, Zephyr continued. I've been struggling with the enclosed nature of our assigned quarters. On Valoria, our cities are open air, our buildings designed for natural light and expansive views. I was experiencing what your human doctors might call claustrophobia. Engineer Chen, upon discovering my distress, provided supervised access to observation areas where I could process my homesickness without violating security protocols. It was a beautiful lie, close enough to the truth to be believable. Reeves turned to Ambassador Turin. And you authorize this testimony, Ambassador? I do, Turin said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. Additionally, I must note that Valorian emotional and psychological needs differ significantly from human requirements. What may seem like excessive accommodation is, from our perspective, basic mental health care. Engineer Chen showed cultural sensitivity and compassion. Marcus watched the political dance happening before him, understanding that Turin was protecting Zephyr. But why? Very well, Reeves said finally. However, going forward, any special accommodations for exchange delegates must go through official channels. Engineer Chen, you're being reassigned to primary hull maintenance for the next month. Consider it a cooling-off period. It was a slap on the wrist, all things considered. Marcus nodded his acceptance, not daring to look at Zephyr. After the humans left, only the 4 of them remained in the room. Marcus finally met Zephyr's eyes, seeing his own relief mirrored there. Ambassador, he said cautiously. Thank you for intervening, but I have to ask, why? Turin's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Because 40 years ago, I fell in love with a human archaeologist on a dig site on Valoria's southern continent. We had 3 beautiful years together before his contract ended and he returned to Earth. We tried to maintain the relationship across the stars, but the distance, it proved too much. She looked between Marcus and Zephyr with something like sadness and hope mingled together. I won't make the same mistakes my younger self did, Turin continued. I won't let bureaucracy and tradition destroy something precious without at least giving it a chance to flourish. However, her tone became stern. This cannot continue in shadows. Zephyr, you must inform your family. Marcus, you must decide if you're prepared for the complications that come with an interspecies relationship. They are not insignificant. I'm prepared, Marcus said immediately. As am I, Zephyr added, reaching for his hand. Linus smiled knowingly. I've been telling them this for weeks, Ambassador. They're insufferably determined. Then we do this properly, Turin said. I'm proposing an official cultural liaison program. Engineer Chen, you would work directly with the Valorian delegates, facilitating technical and cultural exchanges. It would legitimize your presence and provide cover for your relationship while we navigate the political complexities. You'd do that for us? Zephyra asked, her voice thick with emotion. I'm doing it for the younger version of myself, Turin replied. The one who let love slip away because she was too afraid to fight for it. That evening, Marcus and Zephyra finally had a moment alone in the observation deck, this time with official authorization. They stood together at the viewport, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. This isn't going to be easy, Marcus said quietly. Your family, the distance when your exchange program ends, the cultural differences. I know, Zephyra interrupted. But Ambassador Turin was right about one thing. Some loves are worth fighting for. You're worth fighting for, Marcus. He turned her to face him, cupping her face gently. On Earth, we have a saying, I love you. 3 simple words that carry the weight of everything. I love you, Zephyra. Across species, across stars, across whatever challenges come next, I love you. Her eyes glowed with emotion. And in Valorian, we say Kor Shalem. My soul recognizes yours. Kor Shalem, Marcus Chen. They kissed then, no longer stolen or hurried, but deep and sure. Outside the viewport, a meteor shower painted streaks of light across the darkness, a cosmic celebration of 2 souls finding each other against impossible odds. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 3 months later, the observation deck had been transformed. What was once a restricted maintenance area now served as the official headquarters for the Valorian Human Cultural Integration Project, complete with comfortable seating, research stations, and a small amphitheater for presentations. It had been Linus's idea, supported enthusiastically by Ambassador Turin, and funded through a combination of station resources and Valorian cultural exchange grants. Marcus stood before a mixed audience of humans and Valorians, concluding his presentation on adaptive environmental systems. Zephyra sat in the front row, her proud smile making his prepared speech dissolve into genuine enthusiasm. In conclusion, he said, understanding different species' environmental needs isn't just about technical specifications. It's about recognizing that comfort, belonging, and home mean different things to different people. Thank you. The applause was warm, and several audience members approached with questions. Marcus answered them patiently, but his attention kept drifting to Zephyra, who was now deep in conversation with Linus and a group of human engineers interested in Valorian architectural principles. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind. True to her word, Ambassador Turin had created the liaison position, giving Marcus legitimate reasons to work closely with the Valorian delegation. But the real work had been personal, Zephyra's video call home to her family. Marcus had insisted on being present for that conversation, though he'd stayed off camera initially. Zephyra's parents, distinguished members of Valoria's diplomatic corps, had reacted with predictable shock when she explained her relationship with a human. The arranged bonding match had been discussed for years. Rejecting it would have political ramifications. But then Zephyra had said something that changed the tenor of the entire conversation. You raised me to believe that true connection transcends convenience. That the Valorian way is to honor genuine bonds over social expectations. Were those just pretty words, or did you mean them? Her mother had been silent for a long moment, then asked to speak with Marcus directly. That conversation had been terrifying and enlightening. He'd been questioned about his intentions, his career prospects, his understanding of Valorian culture, and his willingness to potentially relocate to Valoria if the relationship progressed. Our daughter has always been passionate, her father had finally said. When she commits to something, she gives it everything. If she has committed to you, Marcus Chen, then you must be worthy of that passion. Don't prove her wrong. The arranged match was quietly dissolved, replaced with a cultural research partnership that satisfied political needs while giving Zephyra freedom. It wasn't perfect. There were still family members who disapproved, still cultural conservatives on both worlds who questioned interspecies relationships, but it was real progress. Now, as the presentation concluded and the audience dispersed, Marcus made his way to Zephyra. She lit up as he approached, and he still marveled that she looked at him that way, like he was something precious and rare. You were brilliant up there, she said, taking his hand naturally. They'd stopped hiding their affection weeks ago, after Turin's official announcement of their relationship through proper diplomatic channels. Some people still stared, but most had grown accustomed to seeing them together. "I had good inspiration," Marcus replied, squeezing her fingers. "Speaking of which, I have something to show you. Come with me." He led her through the newly renovated space to a smaller observation room he'd been preparing in secret. When the doors opened, Zephyra gasped. The room had been designed specifically for her. The environmental controls could shift the lighting to mimic Valoria's triple moons. The viewport angles matched those from her family home's terrace, which she'd mentioned missing during a homesick moment weeks ago. And in the center of the room stood a cultivated specimen of Thessian moonflower, a notoriously difficult Valorian plant that bloomed only under specific light wavelengths. "Marcus," Zephyra breathed, moving toward the flower with tears in her eyes. "How did you? These don't grow off Valoria. They need specific atmospheric conditions, particular light wavelengths, and soil composition that's nearly impossible to replicate," Marcus finished. "I've been working with the botany department for 2 months. We had to get special permission to import the seeds from Valoria, and I've probably broken several horticultural protocols trying to make it thrive, but it's blooming," she whispered, touching the delicate purple petals with reverent fingers. "Do you know what this means? On Valoria, when someone cultivates a Thessian moonflower for their chosen partner, it's a declaration. It says, 'I will create worlds for you. I will make the impossible possible.'" Marcus moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Then I guess I'm declaring something." She turned in his embrace, her lavender eyes bright with emotion. "I have a declaration of my own. My exchange program was supposed to end next month, but I've applied for an extension, 2 more years. Ambassador Turin approved it this morning. If that's something you want." "If that's something I want." Marcus laughed, kissing her softly. "Zephyra, I want every moment I can have with you. 2 more years is a gift." "And after that?" she asked quietly. "My family expects me to return eventually. There are positions waiting for me in the Valorian diplomatic corps. But there are also opportunities for joint postings, human-Valorian cooperation initiatives. We could request assignments together, split our time between worlds." "We'll figure it out," Marcus said with certainty he genuinely felt. "Maybe I'll learn to love Valoria's triple moons as much as you've learned to love Earth's meteor showers. Maybe we'll find some third place entirely, a station or colony where both our peoples are building something new together. The specifics don't matter as much as the commitment." Linus appeared in the doorway, her timing impeccable as always. "Am I interrupting another romantic moment? Because I've scheduled a celebration dinner for the successful launch of the Cultural Integration Project, and you're both required to attend. Ambassador Turin's orders." "We'll be there," Zephyra called, not taking her eyes off Marcus. "In an hour," Linus added. "That gives you 59 minutes to keep making moon eyes at each other." After she left, Marcus and Zephyra stood together in comfortable silence, watching the moonflower's petals shift colors in the carefully calibrated light. Outside the viewport, Station Alpha 7 continued its endless orbit, hosting hundreds of souls from different worlds, all learning to coexist among the stars. "You know," Zephyra said thoughtfully, "when I first came to this station, I felt so displaced. Everything was foreign, the food, the gravity, the social customs. I spent those first weeks wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake volunteering for the exchange program." "And now?" Marcus prompted. She smiled, that radiant expression that never failed to make his heart skip. "Now I realize that home isn't a place or even a planet. It's not about familiar skies or comfortable gravity. Home is wherever your soul recognizes another soul. Korshalem, Marcus, you are my home." He kissed her then, deep and slow, pouring everything he felt into that connection. Around them, the moonflower bloomed fuller, as if responding to the emotion in the room. Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient dance, indifferent to the boundaries of species or worlds. They had begun with an unexpected encounter, a door opened, a secret discovered, a connection sparked. Now they stood at the beginning of something deliberately chosen, consciously built, and infinitely precious. There would be challenges ahead, certainly. Cultural misunderstandings, logistical complications, the simple difficulty of loving someone whose biology and background differed so fundamentally from your own. But as Marcus held Zephyra close, feeling her heartbeat sync with his, he knew one thing with absolute certainty: some loves were worth fighting for. Some connections transcended the boundaries humans and Valorians drew between themselves. Some moments, like this one, were worth every risk, every challenge, every impossible obstacle. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "Kor Shalem," she whispered back. "Today, tomorrow, and across all the stars between our worlds." Outside, a supply ship docked with the station, bringing new arrivals, new possibilities, new chances for different souls to find each other in the vastness of space. The universe was infinite, after all, and filled with unexpected doorways leading to unexpected discoveries. Sometimes, the best adventures began with simply opening a door and being brave enough to step through it, no matter what you found on the other side. The end.